Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week number 29 of the WiggyWam Get Your Property Questions Answered weekly webinar. Real pleasure to be with you here again this week. If you tuned into last week's episode, you'll notice that there's a distinct change this week, which is a new haircut, slightly more casual approach with how we're doing things. Apparently, according to the good lady, the haircut makes it look like I've lost a little bit of weight, which is always a good thing. So avoid the gym and get a haircut, gents, if that's something that you're looking to try and achieve as one of your goals in 2023, of course. So just want to start with a little bit of light humor and relief. But if you've never been to one of these webinars before, what we normally do is we take a bunch of your property-related questions, whether you are a buyer, a seller, an estate agent, letting agent, surveyor, conveyancing solicitor, removals expert, or a mortgage broker, or anybody connected with the property industry, and we take the time to answer your questions, to share the wealth of knowledge that somehow sits within my brain and the different experiences that I've had in the sort of 25, 26 plus years now in the property industry. And for those of you that don't know my background, I'll just touch on that briefly. I started life as an estate agent many, many years ago. But prior to that, as a youngster, I was actually involved in renovating properties with my parents growing up. So quite literally at the age of sort of 6 or 7, I was involved in taking down chimneys out of properties and, extensions, building work, scaffolding, doing roofing work. I remember being thrown up on the roof literally as a youngster and being told that even though I was terrified, I was about to fall off the roof, that I must get up there and put the ridge tiles in place. So that was quite an interesting childhood that I had. I'm sure now somebody would probably call one of the protection bodies, but that aside, I had a lot of experience in sort of hands-on building work and renovation and that sort of thing. Then went on to do some property development, both personally and also through a career change from being an estate agent to a building surveyor, which I did some building surveying and project managing, which I really enjoyed for about 4 or 5 years. Worked on a lot of big projects there, which was quite cool. And then from then on, moved on to become a property investor and wanted to do this whole buy-to-let thing, which I thought sounded really, really good, as well as some of the other property strategies that were out there. Like the idea of, I'll be frank with you guys, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by a gentleman called Robert Kiyosaki. Really quite got taken away with that, and then decided that I wanted to start my own property portfolio and generate an additional income outside of a job, which has been an interesting journey in its own right, and I've learned an enormous amount through that, so much more than I think perhaps most people in the property industry, and I say that with a whole lot of love and respect, but I can't tell you the full extent of that journey. But there has been some very, very interesting challenges that have presented themselves that I've had to navigate through over the course of the last sort of 10 years or so. And that's definitely fueled my knowledge bank and experience. And of course, I just want to share that with you as much as possible, in the humblest way possible. I hope I'm not coming across as too conceited with all of that. But as I say, I've had a lot of experience. I've met with a lot of different people. I was actually invited back to speak on behalf of Robert Kiyosaki and Martin Roberts and Robbie Fowler at the training company that trained me in property investing. So I feel that I've done quite a bit in my life, and the journey is not quite yet complete. I've still got a lot of fuel in the tank, as it were, and want to carry on and contribute back to the property industry. It's something that I love, particularly with estate agents. If you've ever been in the estate agency industry, you'll appreciate that it is an industry that gets into your blood. And for some reason, it really sits with me that having watched sales go through in 6 to 8 weeks was when I was a young estate agent, to now things getting up to 26 weeks for people to move home. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. And that's what we're doing here at WiggyWam, is actually condensing that moving process and condensing the amount of time it takes for people to move home, purely because I think it's just gone on too long now. It's got too out of hand. And actually, when you consider where I used to buy properties at auction, it was a very straightforward process. And the reason for that is you would turn up on the night of the auction, you would have read the auction pack that came with the property, which is not wholly dissimilar to a seller's pack, which gives you the search information on the property. It gives you a draft contract, it gives you the TA6, it gives you the TA10 forms duly completed, so that you actually know what you're buying, and then it's up to you to get your finance in place and your surveys in place to actually acquire that property. And knowing that you can do that and turn up on the day of the auction, place a bid, and then you have to complete 6 to 8 weeks later, it's perfectly possible to do that within an auction room environment. But for some reason, when it comes to buying and selling properties via the traditional way of through estate agents, private treaty, then that process gets elongated significantly. And that's something we're very keen to eradicate. And it can be done. It's very, very simple to be done, of course. It requires just concerted effort from a number of people, all singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of how we're going to do things. And that change is coming, whether you like it or not, and it's actually coming faster than ever before. And I want to segue into something that I've been dabbling with for a little while, shall I say, which is the subject of AI, or artificial intelligence, for those not quite down with the lingo of today's modern tech world. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've always been one of these people that has shied away from a lot of the advances in technology purely because I haven't seen that they are particularly beneficial and helpful in a lot of ways. I hate the idea of being tracked around the internet. I block all the cookies on websites that I go on, and that's something that we don't do much within WiggyWam. We don't put loads of tracking cookies on your computer when you come to our site. We don't believe in that. That's not our bag. But the whole idea that, we've had technology on our phones that listens to us having conversations, and then when we go online, we're presented with adverts that relate to the conversation that we've just had with our friends. And, more than a few people have gone, hang on a minute, that I was just talking about that. How come an advert's shown up for me? All of those sorts of things I've really pushed back against. But the one thing that I think we can't ignore right now is the advancements in artificial intelligence technologies. And having looked at the capabilities of the technology, where it's at now compared to where it was 2 years ago, it is quite frankly mind-blowing. And the thing I want you to kind of understand is that the technology that we're being allowed to play with right now, the tech that's actually not been released and is actually being developed and has been developed, is usually 2 to 10 years ahead of where the public is right now. And I say that with no exaggeration. When I bought my very first iPad, I loved the idea of this, and the guy in the Apple store told me that they had a working iPad 10 years before it was actually released to the open market. And the reason they didn't release it was because the market wasn't ready. And now AI has come along in a way that 2 years ago, there was a lot of concern that it wouldn't actually be able to interact with humans in any way, shape, or form that was reliable. They wouldn't understand the nuances of speech and language patterns and the way humans conduct themselves. And that has now gone very rapidly out of the window. And some of you may have heard of a piece of software, AI software, called ChatGPT. Okay, if you haven't, I encourage you to go and have a look at it. It's an OpenAI source program, which is basically a language interface. And you can ask it questions and it will go off and find you the answer through its massive computer brain. And it has covered only a very small amount of information available on the internet and interactions with humans. Whereas if you look at the next level, so it's on version 3.0 right now, or 3.5 for some people who've got early access, ChatGPT 4 is now working on, I believe it's over 10 times the amount of data points and Neuralinks that its previous version was operating on. So that's a massive amount more data. And if for anybody who tries GPT for the first time, you'll be absolutely mind blown by what it, how it responds back to you. And interestingly, if you give it some context, you can put pretty much any question into it, and it will come back with some seriously good answers for you. So there's a little bit of a learning process involved in sort of getting into this technology. But the reason why I'm sharing it with you is because I want to share a story about what happened literally, I think it was 2 days ago now. And I was playing around with some of this AI technology, and I integrated an extension through Chrome. I won't get too geeky on you guys because I don't fully, get all this tech speak, but I put this Chrome extension onto my browser and created an account with this piece of software. And what it does is it's supposed to actually transcribe your meetings for you, right? So a friend had invited me to a webinar. It was a bit of shall we say, a sales webinar that was going to go on Tuesday evening. at 7 o'clock. And one thing and another, I didn't get around to attending it. Okay. So I was just, I dismissed it. I thought I'll attend on Thursday. It'll be fine. There's no great loss or what have you. And here's the mind-blowing bit that happened. So I checked my emails later that evening, and this piece of software had actually attended the meeting on my behalf, okay, which is shocking in itself. It had recorded the entire meeting, okay. It had, transcribed the entire meeting over the full hour that it was on during the course of the presentation, including highlighting when there was a change of speaker. And if the speaker had provided their name during the course of the conversation, it had provided their name and what they were saying next to it. The text that is provided as part of the transcript is fully searchable. And if you click on certain sections of the text, you can actually play just that specific part of the webinar. Okay. That to me is absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, you can even gauge the sentiment. The tool actually gauges the sentiment, the emotional sentiment of the entire room that was going on, whether it was positive, negative, whether it was neutral, and the kind of emotions that were going on during the course of that webinar. And I just sat there in complete disbelief when I started playing around it. I thought, I can search this entire thing. It even gave me a 3-paragraph summary of the entire 1-hour presentation. Okay, so I haven't got to sit through the full hour if I don't want to. I can read those three paragraphs as an accurate summary. I've saved an hour of my time not being on the webinar. This tech has gone and done it for me. And I'm not saying that that is the right way to approach things, but what I am telling you is that the power of this AI technology that's out there right now is significant. And it's only going to get better, and it's going to get better a lot faster as different models are introduced. Now, one of the things that is becoming more apparent is we haven't seen any releases of technology and software from the likes of people like Google or Facebook, okay? Now, if you imagine the data points that Facebook has probably been collecting over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years, however long Facebook's been around now, but apparently they have 50,000 data points on each and every one of us, okay? They have recorded all of this language model and interaction of humans interacting with one another through their platform. So their knowledge base is huge, absolutely incredible. So it is not inconceivable for anybody that's watched Marvel, Iron Man, that sort of thing, where we have computers that we can talk to in such a way that they understand us and can provide us with access to information very, very quickly. A lot of people talk to Google through their phones anyway, and it produces a bunch of information. But the point of the of me touching on all of this, and particularly with relation to the real estate world, I believe that things are about to change significantly. And the one thing AI can't do, okay, it can't replace I don't believe true professionals. At the moment, it's a very logical thing. It doesn't rely on a lot of emotion, okay? And it is very good at sort of process-driven stuff, if that makes sense, but it's not necessarily good at the intangibles, the tactile nature of human relationships, which I believe a very good estate agent and a very good conveyancing solicitor are going to be excellent at in terms of navigating people through the minefield process. But if you're, with respect, one of these estate agents that thinks they can just win a listing and then post it on the portals and then wait for a buyer to roll in, personally, I would be very, very, very concerned about what's coming. Okay, if you're one of these conveyancing solicitors that just sits there and thinks I can ignore my client for 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 18 weeks or longer and not provide updates during the course of the process, then again, I would be very, very, very concerned about what's coming, because I'm not saying it's going to replace a conveyancer's job, but you've got to suggest that it's going to do 50, 70% of the job very, very quickly. Okay. And, again, for people like mortgage brokers, etc., it won't take long, I wouldn't have thought, for a lot of mortgage products to be available online, and an AI process that can walk you through that mortgage application process. Because imagine if you provide a link to your bank account, for example, it will be able to go in, read your transactions, work out the amount of available income that you have in order to afford a certain mortgage, you'll be able to track your credit history over the course of the last several years. And all of a sudden, the AI has got a complete understanding of you far beyond what a mortgage broker could get through some form filling and asking a Q&A process. So please don't think that I'm belittling any profession here. I'm really, really not. But I'm trying to show you some examples that, now is the time for us all to pull our socks up. If we want this property industry to be what we believe it can be, which is a fast, efficient system that provides excellence to our customers, the mutual client that's paying everybody's bill at the end of the day, then the only way we're going to do that is to embrace the technologies that are coming and to be ahead of the curve. So not only is it embracing the technology early, getting into it, but it's learning it and applying it in a way that makes it almost infinitely replicatable in your business. So there are programs right now that literally will clone you as a person, your thought processes, the way you communicate, your writing style on emails and books and newsletters and white papers, videos that will clone you, like I'm doing right now, where I present this webinar. I can literally clone me, which for some people you may think that's the worst thing in the world, but bear with me, okay? You could clone me and my style and my humor, if we can call it that, and my tonality and my facial expressions, etc. And you can create a video AI version of me called an avatar that would be about 90% accurate, and it would fool probably about 40% of people. And that's where we are today in 2023. So you can imagine in another 2 years' time, it's going to move on leaps and bounds. And the point of me telling you this is that this is probably the biggest game changer in terms of leveling the playing field for those who embrace this technology early. Okay. And I'm talking about, think of the one-man band estate agent, for example, with a couple of hours on AI during the course of the day, which might sound a lot, but you've got early mornings and in the evenings and weekends, that you can throw some time and effort at this and have it massively producing boatloads of content for your marketing purposes, okay, for stuff that you've been meaning to do that's been sat on your list for a while. It will produce an incredible amount of things. I'll give you another example. So one of the things that I struggle with, even though I like to think of myself as a bit of a writer, I struggle with things like copywriting. But you can ask these AI platforms now to produce content in a style similar to one of the great copywriters of our generation. Okay, so one name that you may be familiar with is Frank Kern. Another name might be Russell Brunson, for example. These are people that you can, where the AI model, if you provide it with enough context, will actually start to produce content based on the style of the individual that you're asking it to replicate. And if hopefully right now you're sitting here and the light bulb's going on and you're going, holy guacamole, I really need to be part of this. And I can tell you that this, I genuinely believe this will be the biggest game changer in the property industry, and it will happen quicker than you can possibly imagine. None of this 5 to 10 year adoption cycle. The OpenAI as a user base collected 100 million users faster than any platform has ever done in the whole history of platforms being built, and that includes things like Netflix, it includes things like Amazon and Facebook and TikTok, etc., etc. So, people are getting into this, and a lot of it is the youngsters, no two ways about it, because they understand it better. But once you've spent the time with it, you'll be blown away by what it produces. And I'm already driving my other half crazy with conversations about it because I'm so wrapped up in it. But I genuinely think that in terms of leveling the playing field between the big corporate and the solopreneur, shall we call it that, this technology is the game changer, and it's going to come. It's not just going to come, it's here. Okay, the only question is it's going to get better. So how can you apply it in such a way that it adds massive value to your business? And I'll leave you with that thought as we move on to question number 1, which has come in this week, and this is from Jerry. And Jerry says, as an estate agent, I'm having trouble getting updates from solicitors during the property transaction process. What can I do to stay informed and keep my clients regularly updated? I'm tired of them venting their frustration down the phone at me, especially when the delays and lack of updates are not my fault. Jerry, well, thank you for your question, and thank you for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community. I completely get where you're coming from with regards to this, and this is probably one of the biggest frustrations that agents have been experiencing, and their mutual clients that are shared with conveyancing solicitors, that people have experienced over the course of the last 2 years. I'm sure you have, if you've been going through the pandemic and everything else that's been going on, that you've encountered these roadblocks in terms of barriers to communication and people not getting back to you to let you know where things are at. And I think we're coming into a time where agents need to take a little bit more charge of the overall selling process of a property. And that might sound a little bit daunting, because what I've noticed and realized, and again, I say this with a whole lot of love and respect to estate agents out there watching this, a lot of estate agents tend to be quite people-pleasing personalities, okay? So they don't want to ever say anything that will offend or upset their client, because they might then run the risk of losing the possibility of selling the house, right? So there tends to be, and this is not just my take, by the way, I've heard this from other people who are in the market training estate agents to do a better job of winning new instructions and all the rest of it. But the people-pleasing aspect of the personality prevents them from being, shall we say, the real guiding hand that the seller needs early on enough in the process, okay? Now, if you think about it from an outsider's perspective, when people come to put their house up for sale, okay, they need guidance on best practice as far as marketing is concerned, best practice in terms of actually selling the property, going through those negotiations, okay, best practice on finding a house to live in, best practice on getting their finances in place, for example, best practice on removals. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they need expert guidance on. And unfortunately, in the early appointments, i.e. the valuation and the listing, most estate agents are only focused on getting the property on the market in as friction-free process as possible. And I think a lot of agents are missing a trick big time, which is educating them on what's to come and adding value to the client's journey in such a way that they can charge a premium, okay? And that comes down to expressing your expertise in a way that cuts through the competition, or cuts the competition off at the knees, and shows them that you are the person to be dealing with when it comes to selling a property, okay? Now, that can come in the form of blogs that you've written, videos that you've recorded and posted online, etc., etc. You've built up a knowledge bank, and that helps clients to see that you know exactly what you're talking about, okay? And we're getting distracted slightly here, so I'm going to take a slight side step back to your question, Jerry, which is, when it comes to leading the seller through the property process, I don't believe you can sit on your hands, and when the seller says, oh yeah, we're going to use Bob, you know, the family solicitor who's done our family's conveyancing for the last 38 years, you know, if you know that Bob is going to deliver a very subpar level of service, you need to get that on the table very early on in the process, okay? And I'm not going to tell you your job here, Jerry, but my approach is always to offer people two options. Don't say, oh, Bob's a load of, you know, whatever, he's never going to get the job done in time. Just offer them option A and option B. Option A is to go with Bob, and Bob's, you know, the last dealing that I had with Bob was 14 weeks, and the sale nearly fell through 3 times, and the buyer got frustrated, and it cost the seller an extra £1,000, and whatever else it might be. The genuine experience of what it was dealing with him, which is what made it such a bloody nightmare. And option B is you can go with, you know, Sam, for example, down the road, who we've put 10 transactions through in the last month. She's been absolutely golden. She always updates us. She never lets things slide past 24 hours. And, you know, her fee is very competitive. Yes, you're paying a little bit more, but she's got a whole team of people behind her that update things and make sure the information exchange happens very, very quickly, because the last thing you want to do is lose a buyer, which is going to cost you £1,500 plus in fees anyway. Okay, which option would you like? Okay, because it's a no-brainer to anybody who's rational and sensible in their approach to life. Okay, so that's how I would do it. So it is about setting that expectation up front with the client, but I also think it's worth setting the expectation up front with the solicitors that you're dealing with in your local area, and let them know that you want them to subscribe to your SLA, for example, your standard, your service level agreement. And I believe it's worth putting something together which only has to be 5 or 6 bullet points that basically just says you'll return phone calls within 24 hours and emails within 24 hours. We expect documentation exchange to happen very efficiently and on time, et cetera, you will provide us with a weekly update, whatever it might be that's important to you as an agent for you to do the best job for your client. Set that out in an SLA, and you want those solicitors to be signing up to it and agreeing to it if they want to receive referral business from you. And this is where the issue of referral fees gets in the way of solicitors providing the best service, because usually what they have to do is they offer to charge a fee, and then the agent comes in and cuts them down by a couple of £100 because that's what they want for their referral fee. So the solicitor has got less income coming in, but the biggest liability of the entire transaction, which is, if anything goes wrong, it's on the solicitor's head, right? So this is where you end up in a major conflict of interest between a solicitor paying referral fees to estate agents when actually they should just be focused on doing a really good job in the shortest possible time frame. Okay, so that's what I would definitely do. In terms of getting updates, and if you want to make this really quick and easy and simple, one of the best things you can do is introduce them to WiggyWam and also get yourself on WiggyWam. The reason I say that is because we've built in property workspaces into the back end of the website, so you won't actually see them on the front end. You have to be plugged in such a way that as your properties upload into our system, the workspace is created automatically, and then you can invite buyer, seller, both sets of solicitors in there. And it's a bit like a Facebook group, for want of a better expression, but there's task lists that are listed within there that can be checked off by both parties of solicitors or by the buyer and the seller as they're going through the transaction, so that you know where you're at. Okay, and if a solicitor doesn't want to spend time picking up the phone and updating you, it's dead easy. They just log into WiggyWam. Okay, they type out the update, or they type out the update in their CRM system, whichever is preferable, and then they cut and paste the update from their CRM into the timeline within that property workspace, removing any confidential information, of course, but one-click update, everybody's updated within that transaction. Okay, dead quick and easy and simple, but your client is updated like that, and you don't have to spend hours on the phone, dealing with all the emotional issues. Yes, that task's being done. This is what's coming next. Okay, and by the way, here's some educational videos built into WiggyWam within the Learning Center that will guide you through the next steps of the process, which is profoundly valuable to both you and your clients in terms of delivering excellence to them. So hope that gives you some answers, Jerry. I do believe that, as I say, this is the time now for you to be grabbing the bull by the horns and leading the client through the journey. You're the expert. You're the one they're looking to for advice. And as a consequence, you need to be supporting them in their journey by recommending the right power team, as we used to call it in the investing days, to be working alongside them. Okay, so hope that helps. Let me know if there's anything else we can do to support you in that journey, Jerry, and good luck. All right, moving on. Question number 2 comes in here from Noddy. Hi there, Noddy. Thank you for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community and for sending in your question. So Noddy says, I need to sell my house quickly due to a sudden job relocation. How can I speed up the selling process without sacrificing the equity I have, as I'll need the maximum because I'm moving to a more expensive area? Okay, Noddy, well, thank you for your question, and totally appreciate where you're coming from. Great that you've got a new job in the pipeline there, and hopefully we can get you moved as quickly as possible. Now, where you are, there's a couple of different things that I would look at as a seller of my property. First of all, I would ask 3 estate agents to come and have a look at it, and I'd ask them to give me 2 figures. Okay, this is really important. First of all, you're asking for a marketing figure, so they'll provide you with a normal valuation. And this is a golden question to ask estate agents. Don't ask them this up front, but ask them this once they've given you the price that they feel they should be marketing the property for. Okay, so let's say, for example, I don't know whether this is accurate on the value of your house, Noddy, but let's say, for example, they say your house is worth £300,000, right? And you might get variations. One agent might say 295, another one might say 310, and another one might say 330, right? So you've got a bit of a difference in prices, and the temptation for most people is to go, I'll go for 330 because that agent thinks they're going to get me the most for the house, right? And unfortunately, what happens sometimes in the industry is that some estate agents are either massively over enthusiastic and they will overvalue a property quite innocently, but they fall in love with it, or they really want the job and they put a price on it. They think, yeah, they'd love to achieve for you, but unfortunately it's not realistic in the cold light of day. So the follow-up question that you ask the estate agent when they're sitting there and they've delivered a marketing figure to you is that you would ask them to say, can you give me a 6-week fire sale price that you can sell this house for and exchange contracts within 6 weeks? Okay. Now they'll probably, look at you a little bit like wide-eyed and like, why on earth are you asking me this? Okay. But you want to, the reason for asking this question is that you're focusing the estate agent's mind on what price would they be able to sell it for quickly within that 6 weeks period. Okay, because the 330 figure I've just mentioned might be achievable, but you might have to be on the market 12 months to get it. Okay, whereas they then might turn around and say, well, yeah, we think we get you 330, but you'd have to wait 12-18 weeks. But actually, if you want it sold within 6 weeks, we'd recommend 305, for example. All right, or 299950. All right, so it focuses the estate agent's mind, and it also gets very realistic figures on the table. And if you've got 3 agents then giving you realistic 6-week figures, then those are the sorts of figures I would be basing my numbers on. And I think every seller should ask this of estate agents personally, but that's just my take on the market, having dealt with a lot of agents over a number of years. Now, depending upon what the answers are to that question, okay, I would then speak to a local auction house and see what price realistically they feel they can achieve in the auction room. Now, the problem with going down the auction route that a lot of people don't like is the auction house normally wants to encourage the most interest they possibly can in that particular property, okay? And the way they do it is in a way that has the biggest impact on the seller's psychology, which is they price the property as low as they possibly can. So within certain guidelines and rules around the percentage difference between the reserve price and the sort of asking price, if you like, or the guide price on the property. So that £300,000 property that you might be sitting on there, they might try and advertise it for, say, 200 or 150, for example. And everybody goes, oh, that's cheap, I'm going to buy it. Right, so you get a flood of interest, a flood of people turning up who want to look at the property, a flood of interest in people in terms of wanting to view and to buy. So it packs the auction room nicely for the day of the auction. And then the idea that the auctioneer will then use is to start low and use the momentum of the bidding to get up towards a higher figure. Now, the slight difficulty is that a lot of auction houses do tend to sell for slightly less than the market value, the true market value of the property. But that only might be 10% below market value. And that might work out well for you because you've got to move quickly. Okay, so there's a balance that only you can decide upon, Noddy, as to which way you want to run with this. But that's what I'd be looking to do. The third thing would be to ask 2 or more of those agents that you've asked to look at your property, once they've given you that drop dead figure, if you like, to put those on a competitive agency basis to sell the property. Okay, so that might be that you agree to pay slightly more commission, which I think is a smart thing to do. So you might agree to pay, say, 2% commission or 3% commission on the sale of the property, which might sound extreme, but then you've got 2 or 3 agents working for you to achieve the best possible result, because ultimately they're going to be rewarded for selling it. Now, if you think that most estate agents are operating in a competitive environment, they might be struggling to get 1.5%. If all of a sudden you're offering 2 or 2.5%, to you that might only be £500 to £1,000 difference in price, but to them, they're doubling the fee that they might be able to get by selling your property as opposed to anybody else's. Okay, so that's something to think about. and let the agents decide for themselves how they want to divvy that fee up based on the 2 or 3 of them trying to sell it for you. Okay. So that's what I would also do. The final point I'd look at as well, Noddy, is increasing curb appeal for your property. And what I mean by that is the curb appeal is what every viewer will see when they pull up outside your property. So typically what viewers will do is they'll see the property on the internet, or they'll see it in the estate agent's window, and the first thing they'll do is they'll try take a drive past it to see if they like the area that the property's in, and they like the presentation from the outside. That's called the curb appeal. Okay, not to be confused with something else beginning with curb. Okay, now from a point of view of where you are in the sales process, if you can't attract people across the threshold, okay, into your property, then you're not going to get a sale, no matter how good it is. And one of the things we did, we did some investing down in South Wales many years ago, and we bought a couple of properties, and we wanted to flip them on. And we bought a really, really nice property. It was an end terrace, loads of accommodation inside. It was an absolute bargain. We went through the complete refurbishment program, went to sell it, and we had loads of interest in terms of people requesting details and all the rest of it. But no, we were struggling to get people across the threshold. One of the main bits of feedback was it didn't look that attractive from the outside. It was a rendered property, but it was grey render, and it just needed something to lift it a little bit. So we decided to paint the front of the house white. Okay, simple change, but dramatically increased the sort of profit. The photography. I can't even find the right word, but the photogenic, that's the word I'm looking for, the photogenic nature of the property, okay, and made it far more attractive for people to look at both online and in the estate agent's window and on the set of sales details, and therefore they were more encouraged or more inclined to come and take a look around the house, okay, and it sold very quickly thereafter. So that's something to think about in terms of doing that, and the same applies maybe with staging the property. I'm not a major fan of staging, but you know, if you have to move out, for example, to move into the area where you are to rent a property or what have you, and you take all your furniture with you, it might pay you to put some staging furniture in there to make the property look really sweet and really homely and really welcoming, in order to make it more appealing, rather than trying to sell an empty house. And trust me, I've tried to sell loads of them. And if you're trying to sell, you know, at different times of the year, especially in the winter, and you walk into a cold, dark, empty house, people walk around a bedroom and go, oh, you're not going to get a double bed in here. And obviously you can, but, you know, there's no frame of reference, if you like, in terms of a double bed being in the room to allow people to see what, you know, the size and shape of it all. So hope that helps. One of the things I'm going to advise you not to do, Noddy, a lot of people in your sort of situation will start swimming in shark-infected waters. They'll go online and Google something like quick house sale, or they'll look in the local paper an advert that says, you know, we buy houses for cash, etc. Like anything in life, there's some really good property investors and there's some really poor ones out there. The worst examples I've heard are of investors saying, yes, we'll offer you this much money for the property, and then at the 11th hour reducing down that offer quite significantly and putting sellers into a kind of take it or leave it fait accompli situation with a gun to the head, which I think is very unethical and not worth doing. Okay, so be careful not to swim in those shark-infected waters there, Noddy. Get yourself, you know, some good estate agents to back you in this, and that's exactly where you want to be taking this. All right, so hope that helps, Noddy. Let me know if there's anything else we can help you with, and good luck. All right, moving on. Question number 3 comes in here from Gina. Hi there, Gina. Thank you for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community and for sending in your question to us this week. So Gina says, as an estate agent, I'm having trouble converting leads into clients. What can I do to improve my conversion rate? Okay, Gina, well, that's a great question, nice and short and sweet. So thank you for that. Look, this is a very, very common thing that I see with a lot of estate agents. It is a very, very competitive market, but I'm going to encourage you, Gina, to stand back from what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, okay, and how you're comparing the service level that you're offering with everybody else in your local marketplace. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to consider doing, Gina, if you really want to cement this into your mindset, is to pick 3 random towns in the UK, well, preferably England and Wales, right? I'm presuming you're in England. And go to those 3 different towns on different days and talk to all the estate agents and all the letting agents in those particular areas. And if you want to be a little bit adventurous, you could say something like, oh, I've got a property that I'm thinking of selling in so-and-so road. All right, you don't have to have that property. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay, but I have a property that I'm thinking about selling in such and such a road. I'm just curious about, how you would go about selling that property, and what service you offer as a result of being an estate agent acting for me, etc. Now, most estate agents will immediately jump at the chance to come and look at that property and value it. You can then say, I've got a tenant in it, I'll need to arrange something, but just give me the skinny, if you like, or the lowdown on what it actually is that you do for your clients, right? And once you've spoken to 5 or 10 agents in a town, and then you've gone to the next town, you've done it, and you've gone to the next town, you've done it, what you'll realize is that there's a lot of commonality, and very few are doing something uniquely different to the majority. Okay. Now, again, I say this with a whole lot of love and respect, because I hope and pray that if you're one of these estate agents that's also struggling with, coming up with a differentiating factor, because what I've noticed, again, psychology is a weird thing with humans, right? So we tend to look around at what everybody else is doing and we tend to replicate it, right? So if you look at, one of the examples is to go to a new housing estate and drive around there. And typically what you'll see people that have bought a brand new house on a brand new estate, and then they've gone out and they've bought 1 or 2 brand new cars to sit on the drive. Okay. And it's freaky the way, the same people with the same psychology all end up living in the same area, right? And the reason I mention that is because from an estate agent's point of view, the only way you're going to achieve the elixir of being the best estate agent in your town and winning the best fees is by offering something different to your competition. Okay, there's no point being an also ran in the marketplace. What you have to do is to distinguish yourself significantly from everybody else that's operating. Okay, and the key way that you can do this is by sharing your knowledge and putting yourself front and center as the face of the company. Now, Gina, I'm suggesting that you are. It isn't suggested in your question, but I'm going to assume that you are the owner of the agency that you're looking at. But even if you're not, you can still do this, and I recommend you do this, because I see a change in estate agency happening over the course of a couple of years, where we're moving probably more towards a self-employed model. So building up your online presence is no bad thing, because should you decide to leave the practice that you're at the moment, okay, you can still take all of that online content with you. Okay, but all you're doing is you're demonstrating your knowledge and your expertise as an agent in your locality, and that provides a very, very, very valuable knowledge base for your potential prospects. Okay, now the other advantage is it gives people more of an insight into who you are, rather than what happens for most people, which is, if you look at your current lead process, Gina, with respect, it probably looks something like client rings up for a valuation or sends you an email. Okay, you then get on the phone, you arrange the appointments, you turn up, you do the valuation, you send them a letter afterwards, and then that's kind of it, right? And you're a choice of 1 of 3 or 1 of 5 in your local area or more. And the problem is that user journey is very, very short. Okay, that customer journey is very short with the interaction with you as an agent. Now, here's what I think would be a really smart thing to do, Gina. Let's say, for example, you spent a little bit of time analyzing what your sellers' biggest challenges and biggest problems are in getting their property sold and out, on the market, so that they can then move on to the next property. And you'll probably find from the many conversations that you've had over the months and years you've been an estate agent that there are many commonalities of problems and frustrations that people are facing, and you've got your own expertise to bring to the table, which is, the biggest issue that we find is, conveyancing solicitors not responding, for example, or people not knowing how to complete the TA6 and the TA10 form, or, problems with searches coming in, et cetera, so you have to get them in early. Now, all of this stuff, if you write, let's say, for example, you've got 10 common problems that sellers are facing, okay, put yourself front and center as the face of the company and write blogs about those 10 problems. Okay, create videos centered around those 10 problems, because I guarantee your clients are looking for a solution to those problems. And it's slightly backwards, I think, how most agents approach this, which is to not necessarily get the depth of understanding of what the client's situation is. And that's partly the client's fault, because if they're in a stressful situation, they won't necessarily share that with the estate agent up front, which is a bit naughty. But obviously, if they don't want to share that with you, there's not a lot you can do. But the point is, if you've built up a database of a number of blogs and a number of videos and all the rest of it, you now have a very valuable knowledge resource. So one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is to go to wiggywam.co.uk, okay, and have a look at the news section and the broadcast sections of our website. And I want you to see the amount of interaction that those videos are getting, okay, and those blogs are getting an enormous amount of interaction for what is effectively an up-and-coming new property site, okay, a property platform. And the reason I'm encouraging you to do that is because if you then create a profile within WiggyWam and you access the Learning Center, you'll see that you have the ability as an agent to create almost like a video training course. So if you've ever taken an online training course, you can create one of those, as quick as 1, 2, 3 within the WiggyWam platform. And the benefit of that, Gina, is that now you're starting to differentiate yourself from your competition, because here's what I never see. I have never experienced an estate agent do this. Okay, I have never seen them offer a value add, okay, to their service that makes it impossible to compare them with their competition. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say, for example, you spent 10 hours, which is a long time, but over the course of several months, you recorded and created an entire training suite around all the steps that are involved in moving house in your specific local area. Okay, all of the challenges they like to face, how you can help them, demonstrate your expertise, tell them stories, share your experiences, hook them up with the right power team, etc., etc. Now, that video training suite in itself, okay, let's say you placed a value add figure on that of, say, £500. Okay, now a client may not spend £500 to buy that video training suite, okay, or course, should I say. But what they will do is, when you say, oh yeah, my fee is 1.5% for selling this property, but as part of that, if you sign up today with me, okay, then I'll also give you access to our online video training suite worth £500. Okay, now what a difference in psychology, because all of a sudden, as a seller, I've now got a very difficult choice to make, which is, okay, I go with estate agent B or estate agent C, who are all offering to charge roughly the same amount, or there's a valuation difference of only a few £1,000s, and I can pay the same price, or I can go to Gina, whose fee is slightly more, but I'm getting this free £500 video training course that has actually got stacked with value. Okay, and I've seen some of her blogs and I've seen some of her online videos, etc. She definitely knows what she's talking about, and that brings up the emotion of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. That if they don't go with you, then they lose you as a valuable resource in terms of the selling of their property. And this is not playing games. This is not gimmicks. This is actually a cutting-edge approach to marketing that I don't see any estate agents offering right now. I could be wrong. If you're doing it in the marketplace and you're an estate agent and you've got examples of this, send them through to me, because I would love to see them. But a lot of agents focus on, we do accompanied viewings, or we'll put your house in the paper, or you'll be on a Rightmove premium client, or whatever else it might be. And that's noble, but so is everybody else doing that, right? But there is only one Gina in your local area, right? And that's irreplaceable. And that's really where you need to build your marketing around that, because that's what's going to give you the biggest edge in today's marketplace, in my humble opinion. Okay, so hopefully that's going to help you distinguish it and create a massive USP around the brand of Gina. Okay, if I can call it that. I'm also going to give you a couple of other little tips, which is, to any leads that you are getting, obviously, it goes without saying that you need to respond to them quickly. But the most important thing is to follow up with those people, because, they might place instructions elsewhere. Doesn't mean to say they won't come back to you in 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. Okay, so keep in touch with them. How are you getting on with your sale? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, keep that relationship going, keep it sweet, build it around you. Okay, and I would always, always, always look to tailor the service that I'm offering to a particular client. Okay, so I would create a menu of the different services that we offer, and I would add and subtract to that menu of services that you offer for the fee that you provide. And one of the things I would do is do a gold, silver, and bronze package, as well as the value add that we talked about as a sweetener, as a bonus. Okay, doing a bronze, silver, and gold package, again, differentiates yourself massively from the marketplace. Okay, and if you position that in such a way that, you know, let's say, for example, silver is your most preferred package, okay, that gives you massive leverage to position that in front of your clients, but also allow them to see what value they're getting over and above the other packages that you have available. Okay, so hope that helps, Gina. I'm really excited to see what you can create off the back of that. So let me know if you want any more help and advice or input. By all means, send me through your gold, silver, and bronze packages that you've created, and any sort of blogs or that sort of thing that you want to get posted on the site. We'd be delighted to have them posted up there. As I say, set up your account, do that straight away, or send them into us, happy to help at wiggywam.co.uk. That's happy to help at wiggywam.co.uk, and we'll get them posted up there for you. Moving on to question number 4. Has come in here from Ricky. Hi there, Ricky. Thank you for your question and for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community. So Ricky's question is, we want to sell our home in a desirable area and we know it will sell quickly, so agents won't have to do too much work. What's the best way to negotiate with estate agents on fees? Okay, Ricky, well, thank you for your question. A really interesting one, and this is one that I came up against a lot as an estate agent, where a lot of sellers were under this idea that the estate agent's job was to just put a board up and get it online and find a buyer. And after that, the estate agent's job was done. And I've got to say, that is probably the biggest misnomer in the whole of estate agency. I always say that the estate agent's job doesn't really start until they found a buyer. It's a bit like not learning to drive until after you pass your driving test, if you know what I mean. So with an estate agent, and a good estate agent, they always come into play after you've agreed the sale. And you know, if you talk to 2 or 3 estate agents in your area and they don't necessarily agree with that sentiment, then I would suggest that they're probably not the right agent for you. Okay, because the skills of an estate agent are not just negotiating the deal, because if you have this house in the desirable area and you put it up for sale, a good estate agent will get you, you know, a really healthy price for that property, and that could be more than what you're actually asking for it on the open market, because they know they've got 2 or 3 people interested. They're going to encourage competition. They're going to encourage these buyers to bid against one another, and that could easily pay for any difference in fee that you have an expectation of paying and what the estate agent wants to be paid, if that makes sense. Okay, so I would always encourage anybody who's thinking of selling to always negotiate on service, never on price. Okay, what do I mean by that? Always negotiate on service, never on price. Well, as I say, the real skill of the agent is keeping the deal together once the deal's been agreed and getting it through to completion with the least amount of headaches and pitfalls and problems as possible. Okay, now let's say, for example, Ricky, your buyer comes along, they have a survey done on the property and they find out that there's 20 grand's worth of work to be done that they didn't expect. I'm not saying there is, I'm not saying there isn't, but let's say, for example, that gets flagged up on the survey. Now, that buyer could get very jumpy, they could pull out, and that gets particularly awkward when you found a property that you want to move to that, you know, you're desperate to get, and you've now got this wavering buyer who's, you know, a bit nervous about buying a property that there might be other things wrong with it, or maybe they can't afford that £20,000 worth of work, and they've now got to try and reduce down the purchase price that they're paying, but that doesn't work for you because you're, you know, maxed out on the price you need to achieve for yours, and it's a big jump to the next one. All of these variable scenarios, okay, can come to the fore, and it's about the estate agent that can step into the breach and keep that deal together and negotiate like crazy, sometimes over days or weeks or months, to keep that deal together and get it over the line as soon as possible. And I'm not saying they're going to be successful 100% of the time, but if you ask me, that's where the real skill is: getting you the best price, keeping the deal together, and getting it to exchange of contracts as quickly as possible. Okay, so always negotiate on the service, i.e., what are your expectations in terms of what you want for the estate from the estate agent? Okay, and then get them to tell you what they provide as part of the service. I am not a fan of, frankly, I'll be honest with you, Ricky, I'm not a fan of dealing with sellers who say that they only want to pay 0.5% or 0.75%, or that tell me that, there's online agents that will sell their house for free, because, for me, that's diminishing the skill and abilities of a good quality estate agent. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe that you can put your house, up on a portal and then sell it yourself, because classically what happens time and time again is buyer and seller get involved. Okay, they start communicating directly. They don't have that agent in the middle, okay, who's trying to represent everybody's best interests and keep everything together. So then things get heated, or things change, as they often do when you're dealing with human beings. Okay, and I'll give you an example that we had a buyer and a seller fall out over a pair of curtains on a £500,000 house that we were selling back in 2008. And they'd, not gone behind our back, but they decided to do the whole buyer-seller communication thing without involving the estate agent. And then they fell out about these curtains. And it became such a pig-headed stance by both parties with respect. They dug their heels in the sand, and they were worth like 200 quid, but because it then became a matter of principle, the entire deal fell apart, and they both lost several £1,000s in fees. Okay, so the reality is, Ricky, at the moment, a house has got a 1 in 3 chance of falling through for whatever reason. Okay, so if you're that 1 in 3, you could get your sale into solicitor's hands. You could be progressing for 6 weeks, and then the deal might fall through. Let's say there's a massive change in the economy. Let's say there's a 2008 banking crisis that comes along. Let's say there's a war that breaks out, for example. All these sorts of things could massively shift the economy or the housing market overnight and leave you high and dry. And if you spent out thousands of pounds in legal fees, mortgage broker fees, surveyors fees, etc., and the deal falls apart, you can kiss goodbye to that money. Okay, so there's a lot more skill that goes on with working with estate agents than, as I say, most people realize. And I think I do subscribe to the buy cheap, buy twice scenario. And I'll give you another example. When I was renovating, converting a barn many years ago, it was out in the middle of nowhere. And the one fine day we were up on the roof, and I was using this drill power tool set that I'd bought when power tools had just become sort of battery operated, and you could do a reasonable amount of work before they needed recharging. And I had this drill, and I think it was from B&Q at the time or whatever. And I was using this drill, and I'll never forget, drilled into this piece of lath on the roof, okay, to put a screw in. And the drill just went, okay, just saw the smoke rise, the drill stopped, and I just went, great, Now the entire job stops for 2 or 3 days until I can get to another store, buy another drill, and start work again. Okay, now that drill set, I think, cost me something like, let's say it was 180 quid at the time, right? That was for a drill, a circular saw, and something else, right? I then went to the other end of the market and bought a DeWalt set. Okay, now I remember my old man taking the mickey out of me because this DeWalt set arrived. It was something like £600 or more that I paid for it, and there were 3 or 4 tools in there. It was like, oh, here you are spending money, flashing it about, blah blah blah. Okay, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I chose to invest in the right tools. Okay, that drill is still going strong now. That's several years later, touch wood. Okay, it practically built that entire barn on its own. It did so much work, drilling. Well, I've got to be careful what I say here, but drilling and screwing, okay, and mixing plaster and all the rest of it. It did an incredible amount of work, and as I say, it's still going strong now. And I would, that is the difference between quality versus price. Okay, and that's why I say to you, negotiate on service, never on price. So I know it's been a bit of a long-winded answer to you, Ricky, but I hope you can see where I'm coming from. I genuinely say this, having your best interests at heart. I don't believe in cheap agents' fees at all. Pay for quality. It's worth it in the long run. And the biggest problem I have with property sales and estate agents and conveyancing solicitors is that, unfortunately, you never know whether you've got a good one or a bad one until you really need them. And if you're already into the process and you're already, incurred costs, that's when, cheap becomes very painful. Okay. And I say that having been in the industry for many, many years and experienced it as buyer, seller, and also as an investor, and also as a mentor, training and helping people through the process of building their own portfolio and buying multiple properties at once. So, yeah, I hope you can take where I'm coming from. Take it with the intent of which it's delivered, and that I'm encouraging you to spend more for your peace of mind and for buying excellent service into your forthcoming move. All right, so good luck with that, Ricky. Let me know if there's anything else we can do to help, and I wish you all the very best of luck. Now, moving on, question number 5 comes in here from Rebecca. Hi there, Rebecca. Thank you for your question and for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community. So Rebecca says, I'm struggling to keep up with the demands of my job as an estate agent. There always seems to be a million things to get done in a day, but I can't get much done when the phone is constantly ringing or colleagues are dumping work on me. How can I manage my time more effectively to get through my to-do list? Well, thank you for that question, Rebecca. And I really appreciate, again, where you're coming from, because I know how busy things can be as an estate agent, and when I reflect back on very fondly when I was an agent working in a rural market town, that the working year seemed to ebb and flow quite nicely. And we had a run up to Christmas in December where things got very, very quiet. It was much better because you could stay in a warm office. Christmas lights were on, and it was a very, very lovely time of the year. We'd have old clients pop in and drop off boxes of chocolates and flowers and other bits and pieces. And then in the summer months, you could be working from quite literally doing valuations at 7 in the morning and wrapping up your day at 10 o'clock at night. So very different ends of the scale. And I totally get where you're coming from right now, is that there is an enormous amount of work to do. If it's not contacting clients, it's updating the CRM system. It's, running matching through your CRM system. It's booking viewings. It's going out on valuations, it's making sure clients are being properly serviced and updated, it's chasing solicitors. There's a million things to do, okay? And I think that there's a couple of hacks that you can employ to really whittle down your to-do list as quickly as possible. One of the things I'm going to say, first of all, and this is the controversial point, is that I'm a big believer now in starting your day early, okay? That might sound a bit mad, but I'll give you an example. This week, for example, I've been getting up at 4 in the morning because we are going through a rapid transition process within WiggyWam. There's a lot to do. And I know full well that if I try and start at 8, 9 o'clock, I've only got a couple of hours before things start to get really frantic or busy, or I've got other things that I need to take care of during the course of the day. And what I found is that when I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm a little bit bleary-eyed until the first cup of coffee goes down, for example. But the point is, by 10 o'clock, I've got 4 or 5 hours of quality work done, completely undisturbed. Now, I'm not suggesting that you get into your estate agent's office at 4 in the morning. I'm really not, okay? But what I am suggesting is that, if your working day starts at 8:30 and you're in the office for 7 or 7:30, that hour before work and that hour afterwards can actually become really, really valuable. Okay, now some people can't extend their work day for various different reasons, i.e. childcare, impact on the relationship, etc. And I'm going to suggest it depends on how ambitious you are and what you're trying to achieve within your role as an agent, whether you're want to work your way up to being a manager or even an agency owner. Okay, I'll give you another example. I'm currently reading 10X by Grant Cardone. Strongly recommend that book as a read. One of the things that he talks about is that most people, again, this is sort of coming down to human psychology and comparing and contrasting different groups of people, is that the there are certain people, shall we say, captains of industry and all the rest of it, who are prepared to go above and beyond and will be working the long hours that are necessary to get themselves ahead in life. And that doesn't always come after a short sprint of getting up at 4 o'clock every morning for a week. Okay. Sometimes you have to do that for several years in order to really get the benefits from it flowing through your life and creating the success that you want. But, you know, most people will, and I'm not saying this is what you do, Rebecca, but, you know, they wander into the office at, you know, just about 9 o'clock or between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Then it's grab a coffee, you know, and then have a little bit of a chat around the water cooler or whatever it might be. And, you know, how are you? Yeah, I'm doing fine. Or did you see Game of Thrones last night or whatever else it might be? Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, we went out and we did this, we did that, we did the other. And all of a sudden you've lost half an hour of your working day before the phone starts, and then you're into it all. And what I'm trying to say is the productivity is very low at that point. But if you're in for an hour and there's no distractions, there's no phone ringing, there's no people coming into the office, you can smash out a bunch of work before your working day starts. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do. And that really can become a secret weapon into fast tracking your progress. But the couple of other things I want to mention is that I would set specific goals and priorities that you want to achieve during the course of that day. And this shocks people when I tell them this, but I rarely set more than 3 tasks or priorities to get done in the course of a day. Now, my partner's a bit of a type A, okay? She believes that you've got to be on it and you've got to hammer through things during the course of the day. And when I told her this, that sometimes I, you know, set 3 things to be done in a day and I only get 1 done. And she's like, that's so unproductive, blah, 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 blah. But the point is that I stick at the other 2 until they're done. And a lot of people chop and change and they multitask and they try and do different things. And they end up with 10 things that are unfinished, okay? And they're weighing on their mind. And there's this great phrase that is incompletions drain you. And a very good friend of mine told me this many years ago. And they said, incompletions drain you. Write a list of all the unfinished tasks that you have that you want to get done. And I can tell you right now that that task list can be 4 or 5 pages long at any one point. Okay, so if you've got a lot of stuff that's half done, then, you know, set yourself those 3 tasks or priorities to get done during the course of the day. In a working week, that's 15 tasks or priorities that are getting done during the course of the week. Multiply that up over a month or a year, you're making a lot of progress. If you choose to do 7 days a week, okay, again, you're getting ahead significantly. It's almost another 50% of your working week by doing Saturdays and Sundays. And again, people will push back, oh, the weekends, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to get to in life and all the rest of it? Okay. The final thing I'm going to suggest to you, Rebecca, is that leverage the power of technology that's there right now, is because if you're finding that there are a number of things that you are becoming repetitive tasks that you need to do on a weekly or daily basis, can you automate them in some way? Or can you ask technology to come to your aid in some way through the use of, shall we say, AI technology or whatever else it might be, in order to fast track your way through those different tasks? So, for example, an hour with an AI program or piece of software might save you 10 hours of content creating time. That's massive, okay? So you've just become 10 times more productive, which is, you know, no mean feat during the course of a working day. So it's about keeping an open mind, but I would definitely keep a list of anything that's incomplete right now as a task. Strike it off the list if it's not a priority, or it's a nice to have, but you realize realistically it's never going to get done. And then harness the power of this technology. And again, if you spend that hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, hammering this technology to deliver the results that you want, I think you'll move forward in leaps and bounds very, very quickly. So I hope that helps, Rebecca. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to support you, but I'm wishing you all the very best of luck. And I know that if you apply yourself and get focused on all these sorts of things, you'll clear up. You'll do really, really well. So good luck with that, Rebecca. All right. And our final question comes in here from Shannon. Hi there, Shannon. Thank you for being part of the amazing WiggyWam community. And Shannon says, I'm an estate agent and I'm struggling to get property sales through to completion due to slow communication and a lack of updates from solicitors. I'm concerned this is impacting my reputation and ability to win future business. What can I do to overcome this? Okay, Shannon, well, again, great question, and similar to some of the other ones that have come in here this week. It's funny how these weeks go, that we get certain batches of questions around a similar sort of thing, but or theme, should I say? But great that you've asked this question, Shannon. Again, I totally understand it, and very, very similar to, I think it was it Gina that asked the question earlier about converting leads, and also Jerry in terms of getting those updates from solicitors and all the rest of it. Look, if you didn't listen to those questions earlier, go back and listen to those on the recording, because I think it's going to add a lot of value to you, Shannon. But from a point of view of getting these updates through from different solicitors to safeguard your reputation, I would only be recommending solicitors to your clients that you've worked with previously and that have met the standard that you've agreed within your service level agreement. Okay, so that service level agreement states the sort of 5 or 6 points that you want each solicitor that you're working with and that you're introducing work to hit those points every single time that you have a property deal that's done with them. Okay, and anybody that doesn't meet that SLA, I'm going to suggest you operate on a 3 strikes and you're out policy. Okay, and that means if they breach the terms of the SLA once, that's the first strike. Second strike, yeah, understand. Third strike, you're not sending them any more business, and you will actively encourage clients that are proposing to use them to think twice and actually look at somebody else as a solicitor to work with, so that they're not going to get sucked into a delayed process of going through the transaction. Okay, so that's definitely what I would do. Secondly, I would definitely look at the collaboration tools that we've built into WiggyWam. Okay, now there are numbers of tools that I haven't mentioned. One of them that I didn't mention so far is the communication tools that we built into the suite, which allows you to have, shall we say, text chat, voice call, and video call through the platform completely free of charge. Save you a fortune in fees on Zoom and Skype and all that sort of thing, but allows you to connect with professionals very quickly and easily and get updates. And not only that, let's say, for example, you're doing a text chat with a solicitor, you can take relevant parts of the text chat, cut and paste that into the property workspace, and then again, everybody's updated very, very quickly through the course of that transaction. Again, the solicitor can do that, the estate agent can do that. You're going to be writing notes in your CRM, so why not put them also into the WiggyWam workspace so that everybody knows that the deal is on track and that things are moving forward. Okay, so those are the sorts of things that I think you really, really need to do. And one of the things that I don't like doing, but I think needs to be kind of encouraged, is that where we've got solicitors that are underperforming, clients need to know about this, and I'm going to encourage you to review them on the WiggyWam platform. Okay, so that others have a chance to steer clear of underperforming people in the industry. That's not necessarily just solicitors, but the point is that it's about being fair, right? But if a solicitor hasn't returned a phone call in 6 weeks, or they haven't returned an email within 6 weeks, and they're actively ignoring you in the process, that to me is somebody who is frankly incompetent and doesn't deserve to win future business, because they're just going to do a dreadful job for their clients in the future. So that person deserves a negative review, in my humble opinion, and as a consequence, I would encourage you to do that on the WiggyWam platform, again, just to be fair to other people, so that they can avoid that person in the future. Because look, you're buying a house, right? So the psychology from a buyer's perspective is that this is their hopes and dreams coming true, and from the seller's perspective, they have hopes and dreams of where the move is going to take them, what they're going to get out of it, and how this moving process is going to be compared to how it actually turns out can literally scar people for life, right? And so you want to be sure that the clients are having the best experience possible, and that's impossible if you've got people who are actively standing in your way and are pulling back and not helping you with that entire process. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to suggest that you need to do there. The biggest thing for any client going through the process is to be kept up to speed and kept up to date with what's going on. And that involves phone calls. And even if it's a phone call to say, I've got nothing to tell you, but I just wanted to speak to you and let you know that I haven't forgotten about you. Clients appreciate that way more than you can possibly imagine. Okay, so I think it is about that, and whether or not you need to hire one or two assistants to help you keep those deals together, keep them on track, keep in regular contact, and actively chase the people that are involved. I mean, the one thing I want to say, guys, is, for anybody listening to this, is that when you have a good solicitor working for you, what they can achieve is so beyond your wildest dreams. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I used to have a solicitor who was called Wendy, and she was bloody brilliant. I always used to sing her praises, and she was like, "Oh, don't you go, selling me to other people." And the point is, she came from a farming background. Okay, so she was used to working hard, but when she went into she trained to become a conveyancing solicitor. And my God, she would knock things out of the park. There was never any delays in any of the deals. She was constantly on it. She was constantly chasing things with her team. Everything just went incredibly smoothly as a result of actually working alongside her. And I've never experienced a solicitor like that before or after, unfortunately, which is a real shame. But, that to me should be the standard, not the exception. And again, please, for anybody who's watching this who's a conveyancing solicitor who thinks I'm bashing them, I'm really, really not. Okay, within WiggyWam, we have all the tools and all of the different levels of service that are required to help you raise your game substantially and to get on board with conveyancing within 6 to 8 weeks. And you'll tell me it's impossible, and I'm going to say it ain't possible. It ain't impossible. Okay, it's absolutely possible. You've just got to look at restructuring the way you go about doing things. And I'm happy to go into conveyancing solicitors and show them a different way of doing things, provided they've got an open mind. If they've got an open mind, we can send you, a ton of business that will show you exactly the right way to do things in a way that delivers excellence to your customers, reduces your admin, reduces your stress levels, increases your profitability. And I'm like, what's not to like? So where's the resistance coming from? The resistance is coming from believing there's a better way of being able to do things. And it's absolutely possible. All it requires is a little bit of an open mind, and you'll absolutely get those results. It's not just pie in the sky promises. It's absolutely there. And as I said right at the very start of this webinar, if agents and solicitors and other property professionals are not careful, and when we don't all pull our socks up at once, because we're here to work alongside agents and conveyancing solicitors to make moving great again, if that's not too cheesy a tagline to use, but to really help people move home a lot quicker and a lot faster and a lot more enjoyable way than ever before. And it's difficult to do that with these delays in place. And if we don't stamp those out quickly through the benefit of technology and through working alongside people, then I'm afraid there's going to be some serious casualties in the industry. And that's not my making, so don't shoot the messenger here, guys. This technology is there. It's advancing at rapid rates. I'm quite concerned at the number of different roles that can be replaced very quickly through an interface, okay, that is only going to get more and more intelligent, more clever, and access to far more information than you and I could ever handle, okay? So it is about being smart. It is about being on the forward foot and the front foot and delivering something that no computer can possibly replicate, which is you operating at a 10x level, for want of a better phrase, and delivering that excellence to your customers in a way that they just say thank you, and I'll gladly pay more because I really enjoyed working with you. And more importantly, I actually ended up achieving my goals and dreams a lot faster than I ever thought I would be able to. Okay, so hope that helps you, Shannon. As I say, watch this video through, because I've dropped a few nuggets in here, and I know that there's a lot of other stuff earlier on that I shared that's going to be helpful for you to help you protect your reputation as well, and to get you firing through these deals as quickly as possible through to completion. All right, so good luck with that. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help and support you. And otherwise, I shall wish you the best of luck. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much indeed for joining me here on this webinar today. We are doing this same time, same place every week. So if you've got questions, concerns, comments, feedback, anything that you want to send in to us, there's a number of ways you can get in contact with us. The first is via email. Email address is happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. Okay, you can send us your property questions or anything else to that email address. You can also get in touch with us through our website. That is at www.wiggywam.co.uk. That's wiggywam.co.uk. You can access your free profile in there. You can view blogs. You can view our broadcasts that we put out every single week. There's a wealth of content and knowledge and information there. So I encourage you to sign up and get involved and start becoming part of the amazing WiggyWam community. You can also go to Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @WiggyWam_UK. So that's @WiggyWam_UK, where you can, again, get in contact with us via Twitter and send us your comments, feedback, questions, and anything else that you may have. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of of our webinars and our podcast, by all means, please get in contact with us. Send us an email, happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. And if you just put in the subject there, podcast guest, we'd love to have you on, share some knowledge and expertise with their community. And I'll look forward to hearing from you all very soon. So thanks ever so much indeed for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you again on a future webinar and podcast very soon. Take care.